Crayons for the children's ministry, $8. Diapers for the nursery, $12. Bibles provided for students, $80. Care packages to missionaries, $200. Knowing what you give makes a difference, eternal.
As we finish out this Treasure Principles series, if you missed any of those, you can go on the website or our YouTube page and check out all the other weeks that we've been going through this. And that's really been the message, that what we do is not just for this life. It's not just what we do for this, 50, 60, 70, 80 years on the planet, but it goes far into eternity, because that's what Jesus came to give us. Not just forgiveness, not just a great life here, but a life that never ends. And so that doesn't make what you do meaningless. It actually makes it way more meaningful, because you realize that I get to bring hope, and a hope that's eternal, to the people around me. And so this principle has been trying to remind us of what really, really matters. And I want you to think for a second. I want you to imagine that tomorrow morning you wake up and you grab your phone, if you're old school, you grab your newspaper, and you're going through it, and you see your obituary in there, like a death notice, and your name is there. Now, would you be happy with what that notice says, with the story that it's telling? Now, would you be glad they got it right? Or would you be not so happy that they got it right? See, you think that's kind of a silly thing, but it has happened before. In fact, in the Treasure Principle book, he talks about Albert Nobel, who was the guy who started the Nobel Peace Prize. And I didn't know this before, but he invented dynamite, and was kind of known at that time as a guy who liked to blow stuff up, and really was really kind of they called him a merchant of death. And so what happened one day is his brother actually died, but they got it wrong. They thought he had died. And so he picks up a French newspaper. He was from Switzerland. Picks up a French newspaper, and it says, "Merchant of Death has died." Now he reads that headline, and he reads what they thought of him. Like, they thought that he was just a guy that profited off of making things that helped to kill other people. Could you imagine that? Can you imagine your whole life is boiled down to that, as this horrible monster? And he decided right then and there that he was alive, that they had made a mistake, but that they had opened up his eyes, that he was going to do something with his life and with the money that he had made. And so he developed this Nobel Peace Prize, which you're probably familiar with that, right? It's this award, right, that's given to people who benefit humanity. And in the book, it says that he gave probably $9 million by the time he died to that. And so it makes me wonder, and I pray that it makes us all think, with that, whatever they say at your funeral, is it going to be good? And so I think now we got a chance to change that. We got a chance to and this isn't about what people think of you, but it's a matter of looking and say, okay, what does God want me to be doing with my life? Now, we've looked at this treasure principle, and it's really tried to remind us of that. And let's look at some of those. If you look in right before this service starts in the bulletin, are these 6 keys that we've been looking at. Okay, so this is going to be the lightning round. We're going to go through these really fast. I'm not going to, I'm going to buzz through real quick. So the first week we learned that God owns all of this. You know what I mean? So the idea of ownership for me as a believer in Jesus is really kind of weird, because it's all His. And so for me to go, well, how much should I give Him, is kind of foreign, because it's all His. I'm just here to take care of it, to steward it, as it were, right? I also realize that my heart will go anywhere I put all those things that God has given to me. And also realize that heaven, the third one was that heaven is my home, not here. As the hymn says, I'm but a stranger here. Heaven is my home. And because of that, I don't live for the dot, which is what represents my life. Imagine that there's a dot, and that's your existence here, but then there's a line that goes out into eternity. We live for the line. We live for we invest in that. Why? Because God is our treasure. because he is everything, and he gave us everything to buy us back. Could you imagine that, this gift that we have? I don't think we really fully appreciate it sometimes or fully let it sink in, that even though I'm a no good, dirty, rotten sinner without Jesus, that he, even me, being dead in all of that, and being separated, came down and died for me. How cool is that? That he would shed his blood, and that he would even, go through all of that suffering for me and for you. That's why he's a treasure, because he looked down and he saw us as his treasure. And he did all that it took, gave all that he could to buy us back. So number 5, we looked at is that giving is the antidote to materialism. So like all this stuff is like calling us to because listen to this, you think you possess things, but often they possess you. And so the way to kind of cut the cord is to give it away. Give it away. So look at it differently. And the last one is a really important one, is that God will give me all that I have, not to raise my, and I know this is kind of cheesy, but it's in the book, so I'm going to use it. Not my standard, I have to say it even with like a TV show host voice, not to raise my standard of living, but my standard of giving, right? That should be on a t-shirt or something. But it's so true. In other words, not to make my pile bigger. He doesn't give me money and success and power and all that so that I can have more than the next guy. What he does, he gives it so that I have this pile of opportunity. I have a bank account full of opportunities so that when somebody comes to me and they're like, man, my house just burned down. Whoa, I can help you. I can help you, right? You just had like everything implode in your life. You lost your job, right? And just unspeakable things have happened. You know what? Well, I've been through some of that too. And God showed me that he loves me, and Jesus gave his life for me. There's hope. See, that's what that's about. See, but I think even if I think God's love is just for me, I'm not going to give it away. It's all that I can give and I can help when it's needed. You see that so clearly in the story of Esther, don't you? Now, I know you've read Esther a million times, correct? Everybody? Amen? Probably not. You're like, where is Esther? It's one of those books you're like, is that in the Bible, Esther? Wasn't she like on like some TV sitcom or something like that? No. This is an amazing, amazing story. And Mrs. Shum was able to distill it down into like a kid's message size, which is just awesome. We actually gave her a round of applause in the early service. And we can say, yeah, all right, awesome, good job, good job. It's tough. It's tough. There's a lot of chapters, and we don't have all day. So what I want to do is, for those of you who haven't, I want to encourage you to go home and read this. It's an incredible story, just an amazing one. And basically what you have is you have Esther and Mordecai, not the guy from Adventure Time, but Mordecai, that's for the kids. But all the adults are going, what? Mordecai. So Mordecai and Esther, they are from the Jewish faith. Okay, and again, there was a captivity. Many of the captives got to go home, but Esther and her uncle got to stay behind in a place called Susa, and was ruled by the Persians, and a guy named Xerxes was the king. Okay, there's a bunch of names and a lot of stuff. But what happened is that Mordecai raised this girl as his daughter. Her parents had died, but they kept her being Jewish a secret. Now that's pretty important, right? We'll come back to that. Because the King Xerxes is he's not the kind of guy you want to have over to your house, because he's a little crazy, power mad, if you will, and totally old school. His wife at the time, the queen, he was having this big banquet, and he wanted to parade her, right? That's where trophy wife comes from that story, because he wants to show her off. Look how hot she is, and she's like, no, I'm not going in there. I'm not having that. So he basically says, well, then you can't be the queen anymore. And then he has this contest to find the next queen, right? It was sort of like Miss America meets American Idol. That's the only way I can kind of put it together in my mind. So there's this search throughout the land, and Esther is the one who captures his heart. And wow, she's the most beautiful, and he makes her the queen. Right? Actually just puts a crown right on her head, and it's awesome. But the problem is that the villain comes in, and his name is Haman, and he is also just like the king. He loves the look of himself, right? And he believes his own press. I mean, he's just like off the charts. And what the king does is he says, listen to this edict that he does. He says, look, when you meet Haman, you have to bow. That's how important this guy is. You got to bow down. Now, there's a problem because Mordecai is a man of God. He doesn't bow down. He's not going to worship anybody. So how do you think that went when Haman comes in and, passes him on the street and Mordecai's like, no, I'm not bowing. Right? Got him so angry, so much so that he went to the king and he said, look, you've got a group of people and they're a problem. They're these Jewish people and they are not with the program. We got to annihilate them. And the king agrees and he makes a proclamation that on a certain day he's going to, listen how crazy this is, he's going to exterminate each and every one of them. Now remember Esther? What's her nationality? Jewish. So he has just condemned this woman that he loves. And Haman's the one that did it, and he put him in position. Right? So behind the scenes, what happens is Mordecai gets wind of a murder plot of the king, an assassination plot. He tells the king, right? And so he's doing the right thing for the king, while Haman is basically undermining everything and doing all these horrible, horrible things. So Mordecai hears that all the people are going to die. And this is where we get to Esther 4. Longest lead up I've ever had to a text right there. So in verse 12, Esther's words are reported to Mordecai. So he sent back this answer. Listen to this. He says, don't think for a minute that because you are in the king's house that you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. That is so huge. God is going to save his people, right? He loves them. And he says it's going to be you or it's going to be somebody else, but it's going to happen. This is not going to go down. This is not going to take place. And he says, listen, he goes, let's take it up a notch even. Who knows? But that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. He's saying, look, I want you to entertain the possibility that the beauty that you possess, gift from God. That the fact that he picked you, the fact that you are now the queen, the fact that, right, that you alone are in a position to go. Now, I know there's a risk. As Deb pointed out, there was a law that if the king didn't summon you, this is the way he is, and you're kind of like he's playing Xbox and you interrupt that, he's going to kill you. Now he can extend. He had a golden scepter or something, and he could extend that, and you're good. So that means like, hey, you're okay. And so there's a risk. So what does she say? She says to Mordecai, "Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa, right, and fast for me. Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants, we're also going to fast as you do. And when this is done, I'm going to go to the king, even though it's against the law, and if I perish, I perish." How amazing is that? She's like, this could be a death sentence. I could be walking into my own, right? This might be it. But I have to do this. And she does it. She goes in there, and the king extends this grace to her. Here's her story. Here's what happens. And I won't spoil the story, but basically everything blows up in Haman's face, and he winds up saving the people. He winds up saying, "No, we're not going to kill them. That is horrible." And whose idea was it? It was Haman's, right? So Haman winds up. Doesn't end well for him. I'll just tell you that much. But here's the thing, God's people are saved. And it's a reminder to us, like it might not seem as dramatic as that for you. It may not be an entire nation that you're saving, right? But check this out though, but Jesus came down and saved all of us and gave his life for us, and he's given you resources and he's given you all kinds of things that you need to live, again, not to make your pile bigger, but that you can make a difference and bring hope to people that desperately need it. This love. Think about this. You could not only save someone's life physically, but when you tell them about what Jesus has done, When you tell him that there is no sin that he has not taken care of, that there's no sin that blood didn't pay for, that all the guilt washed away. It's not about trying to get better. Once you sort of give someone that freedom and experience it yourself, you just change that person's life eternally. Like, I didn't think about that. Like, I'll be honest with you, that's why I do what I do. And I pray that's why you do what you do, no matter where it is, because you have the opportunities to bring that hope every single day. To look at, okay, what can I give? What do I have? And who needs it? My time, my money, and all of that. Because here's the thing. A lot of times we think, I can't give because I don't have anything to give. I've just told you, you have the most incredible gift ever in Jesus. But 2 Corinthians 8, I want to end with this. Paul says in verse 9, he says, for you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. You know how much he loves you. You know what he's done for you. That though he was rich, creator of the universe, right? He's rich. Yet for your sake, for my sake, he became poor. He emptied himself, right? So that you, through his poverty, might become rich. So we have the ultimate to give to people in our lives. And so I pray when we look at how we're going to give, whether it's at church, whether it's right out there in the world around us. In fact, today is going to be an opportunity to do that. We are going to be taking a special collection today for a hurricane relief. It's one of those ways to say, you know what, these people have had unspeakable things happen, and maybe you've had that happen in your life for someone that you know, where they lost everything, maybe in Sandy, right, when that came many years ago. You say, you know what, I'm going to help them out. I'm going to give a little, whatever I can to help them. Because we want them to have the same hope that we have.